Hello, all you weirdos. Jim here. And when this Joker Year One story that is starting in Batman number 142 this week was announced months ago, I made a video saying that I never liked the idea of showing the Joker's true past. And while some people actually argued with me, imagine that, I still stand by that sentiment. I like to think of the Joker as a force of nature that verges on the supernatural at times. And really, there isn't a more unreliable narrator. So most of the times you're left not really knowing if what you just read was true anyway. But like I said, some people were really looking forward to this, and here we are. And I'll tell you right now, I am intrigued by what Chip Zdarsky is doing here. I'm not sure how much I like it yet. It's very odd, but I am intrigued. So let's get into it.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Batman number 142 is written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Giuseppe Camuncoli and Andrea Sorrentino, two artists that I really do like, and I think the art really good here. But this is going to be more of a non-spoiler review than usual. We will go more in-depth story-wise on this week's DC Comics podcast. You know, the podcast that comes out every Sunday night. You just search Weird Science DC wherever you listen to podcasts. You can listen to it, right? I'll also probably post the review here on YouTube after me and my man Eric talk about it on the podcast. Now, I'll admit, the first time I read through Batman number 142, I was a bit confused. Chip Zdarsky jumps between two time periods, the past and the future, to not only show the Joker Year One stuff, but also a future where the Joker seems to have died and kicked off a Joker apocalypse. Now, the purpose of the Year One stuff is to tie the Joker into Zdarsky's Batman the Knight history, and we do get that started off here. But the future stuff is odd, and actually for me, it's a somewhat pleasant surprise. I've seen different reactions to it. I tell you, I didn't expect it, but I'm actually more intrigued with that than tying the Joker and three Joker stuff into that Batman the Knight history. Sure, I still don't know what the hell is going on in that future, but mentions of Barbara Gordon as commissioner and Batman on what could be his last case against the Joker is a neat little twist playing off of the Year One stuff. Now, I think the biggest problem with this issue, though, is something that goes against what I think of when I hear Year One. This story is not really new reader friendly. Sure, Zdarsky and his editors can hope that everyone picking up this story have been reading the Zdarsky run so far. I think they might be able to assume that, even if it's not true for everybody. And if you haven't already read it, I suggest you do read Zdarsky's Batman the Knight, even if you aren't reading this story. I like the Batman the Knight story, but it doesn't stop there. There's a weird play where if you haven't read Scott Snyder's Zero Year story from 2013, and or you're unfamiliar with Duke Thomas and his powers, you may feel a bit lost at times. And it's a weird thing. We haven't gotten a lot of Duke in the last couple years. So I think there are people that might be unfamiliar with him and his power set, but also would be unfamiliar with the story from 2013. A Scott Snyder Zero Year story that not everybody loved. I liked it, but not everybody did, but you might be a little lost. I hope that as this story unfolds, things will be explained. But even then, it feels like new readers may miss out a bit here. It might end up being that thing where, as I review it and other people review it, you say, yeah, you can understand it. But without having that background, you're not going to see how cool it really is. And that's a shame. Now, there's also the three Joker thing. And I guess you could say new readers might have the benefit here, as it seems like one of Zdarsky's goals is to have everyone forget the Jeff Johns three Joker story. And I'm sure a lot of people listening and watching right now are like, yeah, I can do that pretty easily. It was a weird thing. When that story came out, you know, there were people who didn't like it. There were people who liked it, right? That's how every story is, actually. I mean, that's not any sort of shocker. But I think that it hasn't really aged like a fine wine since. I see a lot of people, as the time has passed, really start throwing shade. at that Jeff Johns 3 Joker story for a bunch of reasons, things like that. So the idea of Chip Zdarsky kind of changing that around, maybe some people get upset, but I think most people will be fine with that. Now, with all of that, it's still going to be wacky for that 3 Joker concept for some readers, and the transitions between scenes and time periods, they get a little sketchy here. They're a little shady at times, and even confuse me on my first read through. But as we all know, I am a bit of a dummy. I did like the art overall. I said that already. It's very moody and fits the past and future stories well enough. But overall, this one's really hard to rate. It's a really hard issue to read through and rate it. I'll tell you, it's very similar to Chip Zdarsky's Avengers Twilight issues that are coming out at Marvel right now. As you read them, you just don't know if you like it or not. I think that we're going to have to wait. I still don't know if we needed the story. And there wasn't really a hook that got me that excited besides wanting to find out what the hell is going on. And as I said, being somebody who went into this not really thinking that we needed a year one story, the future thing is what kind of intrigued me more. But overall, I'm hoping that this all comes together in a way that will make the current Batman story by Chip Zdarsky, Zur-En-Arrh, Failsafe, that it'll make that stronger. But saying that, Zdarsky's Batman run has been so plagued with starts and stops from things like Night Terrors with a K, Gotham War, and now this. And while I don't think that this is quite the jumping off point that those other 2 might have been, unfortunately, Night Terrors with a K kind of might have been a jumping off point for DC Comics in general, but a lot of people bailed on the Gotham War, and it wasn't good. So there you go. But I think that this thing and a whole Joker year one, don't think it's going to be a jumping off point. But I was hoping that a Joker Year One story would be more of a jumping on point for new readers. And that's the only thing that I could think of why DC, Chip Zdarsky, the editors, would want this. But we'll see. So overall, it's tough. I was trying to think what to give this. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 and hope for the best going forward. The problem is, whenever I hope for the best, things go horribly wrong. But that's just me. Most people don't live the horror show that I call my life. But let me know what you all think of Batman number 142. Did we need a Joker Year One story? Are you excited with this start? Do you, like me, are you more intrigued by the future deal, which came out of nowhere? And maybe you think you have a crazier life than me, because I'll fight anybody on that. But these are all the important questions that I'd love to hear from everybody in the comments. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. And as I mentioned earlier, check out our DC Comics podcast, where we will go more in depth, play-by-play type of deal with our review there. And you can find in the show notes, in the description, you'll find a link to our podcast and everything else Weird Science. So check all of that out. But with that all said and done, I hope that everybody is enjoying another new week of comics, and I'll be back with more reviews and commentary stuff here on the channel. But thanks, everybody, and I will talk to you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.